Hello class, welcome to Algebra Concepts, lesson 4.3, which is all about slope-intercept form. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to graph equations in slope-intercept form. You should also be able to write them. I should have typed that. Okay, but anyways, moving on. Let's practice writing linear equations in slope-intercept form. So we did this a little bit last year, so hopefully this looks a little familiar, but if not, no worries. Hopefully it will come back to you and click. All right, so write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line with a slope of 4/7 and a y-intercept of 5. Okay, so the first thing you need to commit to your memory again is what slope-intercept form is. So it's y equals mx plus b. M represents our slope, b represents our y-intercept. Okay, so that means that if m is our slope, instead of writing m, I'm going to write 4/7. And if b is our y-intercept, that means instead of b, I'm going to write 5. So it would look something like this. Y equals 4/7 x plus 5. And then that's honestly it. That is how you would write that problem. So hopefully that doesn't seem too difficult. A common mistake I'll see people make is that they'll switch those two numbers around. So just be sure that you always remember m equals slope and b is your y-intercept. All right, so now I want you to take a minute and figure out which is the equation in slope-intercept form for the line with a slope of 5/8 and a y-intercept of 3. Good luck. All right, hopefully you said letter B. Your slope always is the number that goes with your x, so 5/8 goes with the x, and then 3 is the number that's all on its own. If you have any questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on to the next example. There was supposed to be a little shade here. But anyways, since you already saw it, let's talk through it. So write negative 22x plus 8y equals 4 in slope-intercept form. Okay, so what slope-intercept form means is that y is all by itself. So if you look at the y right now, you can see that there's an 8 with it, and there's that negative 22x on the same side as it. So we want to get it so y is all by itself. Okay, so this is our starting point, right? Negative 22x plus 8y equals 4. When switching these to your slope-intercept form, your first step is always going to be to move the x. So in this case, we move the x by adding because we had a negative, okay? So since it was negative, the way we move it is by plussing it or adding it. So we say plus 22x on each side. So then we're left with this step right here, 8y equals 22x plus 4. Then to get y all by itself, we have to divide by 8 because we have 8y. So that means we're multiplying. So to undo that multiplication, we divide both sides by 8. And then we're left with y equals 2.75x plus 0.5. Okay, so that is how you would convert this equation into slope-intercept form. You move your x and then divide by whatever number's with your y. All right, so now I want you to figure out what is the slope-intercept form of 18x minus 3y equals negative 27. Good luck. All right, hopefully you ended up with y equals 6x plus 9, and the way you got there was first you subtracted 18x from both sides, then you divided both sides by negative 3, and that would get you to y equals 6x plus 9. If you have questions about that, please be sure to ask questions, and I'm happy to help you. Let's move on to example 3. Okay, so the number of job openings in the United States during a recent year increased by an average of 0.06 million per month since May. In May, there were about 4.61 million job openings in the United States. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the number of job openings in the United States in the months since May. Okay, so I know some of you just hate word problems. And having 4 different lines of text that's overwhelming to you, and that's okay. So let's learn how to make this so it's not quite so overwhelming. So when you're trying to write something in slope-intercept form, remember we're looking for our slope and our y-intercept. Your slope, the key word you're looking for with slope is the word per. Whatever number is with per, that's going to be your slope, okay? And then b, your starting value, is going to be b, your y-intercept, is going to be whatever that like starting value is. Okay, so if we go back to this question and look at it with those two thoughts, let's see if we can figure out what numbers go where. And remember, we're looking for y equals mx plus b. We're looking for that slope-intercept form. So the number of job openings in the United States during a recent year increased by an average of 0.06 million per month since May. Okay, so I see that per with the number 0.06. That means my slope is 0.06. Okay, then we have in May, there were about 4.7 million job openings in the United States. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the number of job openings in the United States in the months since May. So since it references since May, that means May is our starting point, and we were told that May has 4.61 million. So 4.61 million. So if we were to write the equation, we would say y equals 0.06 x plus 4.61, okay? And that would be our final answer. We'd have y equals 0.06x plus 4.61. So hopefully knowing that per means slope and starting value is your b, hopefully that helps make it a little easier, so that way you can figure out which numbers would go where. All right, now I want you to try this one on your own. I'll read it to you, okay? The median household income in the United States during a recent decade decreased by an average of approximately $305 per year. At the beginning of the decade, the median household income in the United States was $56,800. Select the equation that represents the average household income in the United States since the beginning of the decade. Then you have 4 options. So go ahead, take a minute, think about the per and the starting value, and go ahead and select which equation you think represents the average household income. Good luck. All right, for this problem, hopefully you said letter B. Some of you might be scratching your head and wondering why it's B instead of A. So a key thing here, yeah, we have the 305 per year, but if we go back to reread the problem, it says decreased by an average of approximately 305 per year. So that means my slope is negative 305. Okay, so you look for the number next to per, but you also check to see if there are any words like decreased or increased to help you determine, is it a positive 305 or a negative 305? Okay, if you have questions about that, please be sure to ask for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on. All right, graph a linear function with a slope of negative 3/2 and a y-intercept of 4. Okay, so last year we practiced this. Let's practice it some more. So we have a y-intercept of 4. So just like in the word problem, how I said that's your starting value, this is your starting point. Okay, so this is the first point you graph. Okay, and a y-intercept, remember, means that it's 0, 4. So on my graph, I'm going to go to 0, 4, and put a point. Then you're going to use the slope in order to get your next point. So if I have negative 3 or negative 3/2, I have a couple of options. I can either say negative 3 over 2, or I can say 3 over negative 2. So I'm going to show you both ways. I'll use two different colors to kind of help you figure out which one was which, okay? So let's start with the -3/2 over 2. Remember, slope is rise over run, or the y over x. So if I have a -3 for the y value, I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then run a +2. So that means I'm going to go 2 in the x direction. Okay, so then that would go like that. And if I wanted to get a couple more points to draw a better line, I can. So that would be going that way. If I wanted to use this other one, you can see I have a +3, so I could go up 1, 2, 3, and then -2 means left in the x direction. And I could go like this. And you can see that it forms the same line. So it doesn't matter which way you go, as long as you only put that negative with one of the numbers. Okay? So your first step that you did was plotting the y-intercept, and then you use your slope to find more points. Okay? Let's practice another one. So this time we are graphing 12x minus 3y equals 18, and that gets a little tricky. It just involves one more step. I guess tricky is the wrong word. It just involves one more step, is we have to put it in slope-intercept form first. So I have 12x minus 3y equals 18. So that means I'm going to subtract my 12x over first. So I have 3y equals -12x plus 18. And then I'm going to divide everything by a -3. So y equals -12 divided by -3 is +4x. And then 18 divided by -3 is -6. Okay, so now that I have it in slope-intercept form, I can graph. I start with my y-intercept, which is -6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's my y-intercept. And then I use my slope. Sometimes you guys get a little mixed up when it's not a fraction. So I recommend, if it's just a regular number like this, in this case it was a 4, make it a fraction by putting it over 1. Okay? And then since it's +4 over +1, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. There's a point. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Okay, so you can see how I got all of my points. And if you wanted to go the other way, you could go down 4, left 1. Because remember, a negative divided by a negative is positive. So you can go down 4, left 1, and you can see that continues the line. Okay? So you have, even when you have a positive slope, you still have kind of that option of what way you are going to go. All right. Now I want you to look at these. I'm going to make this a little smaller so it's easier to see on the screen. I want you to select the correct graph of -4x plus 8y equals 16. Good luck. All right, for this problem, hopefully once you changed it to slope-intercept form, you got y equals 1/2 x plus 2. And if you looked at your graphs, you could see that my y-intercept is at 2. That means it's not letter A, it's not letter C. And then if I look at letter B and D, I have a positive slope of 1/2. So that means it's going up as it goes left to right, so that would be D. Okay, if you have questions about that, please be sure to raise your hand, ask for help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on to our next example. All right, so we've practiced these before as well. Graphing constant functions. So would you have y equals a number? Remember, we kind of talked about this yesterday. That's the same as saying y equals 0x plus 2. Or maybe not yesterday. This was 2 lessons ago. And then we made a table, and we discovered we have a horizontal line. So then you go up to y equals 2, and you would have all of these points going left to right. So your y function, remember, is going to give you a line that looks like that. Now your x, if you have x equals a number, that's where you go to the x value, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this time it's going to be a vertical line. And it's going to look like this. Okay? So since we just talked about that in detail a couple lessons ago, I'm going to kind of leave it at that. I recommend you write this down as just kind of another note to yourself. If you would like to go through this with me more, please reach out for help. I'm happy to help you. We can talk through this as many times as you want. But for this video, I'm going to move on, okay? And this is our last example for today. The number of online shoppers in the United States can be modeled by the equation negative 5.88x plus y equals 172.3. Where y represents the number of millions of online shoppers in the United States X years after 2010. Estimate the number of people shopping online in the United States in 2020. Okay, so again, a word problem, kind of a lot to unpack. So if I just kind of copy down some of the main pieces of information for you, let's see if we can figure this out. So the first thing I see is this linear function, and I want to first just change it so that way it's written in slope-intercept form, because everything we're doing today is in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to add my x over, because right now it's negative. So then I would have y equals 5.88x plus 172.3. Okay, so now I have it in slope-intercept form, which is great. And now let's move on. So y represents the number of millions of online shoppers in the United States X years after 2010. Okay, so our starting point's kind of at 2010. So if we want to estimate the number of shoppers in 2020, we have to figure out how far away is 2020 from 2010. 2020 would be 10 years. So that means we're going to plug 10 in for x. So we're going to say x equals 10. So I'd say y equals 5.88 times 10 plus 172.3. So 5.88 times 10 would give me 58.8 plus 172.3. So then I say plus 172.3. And I would find out that it's 231.1 million shoppers in 2020. And that's all I would do. Okay, so this is just an example of kind of applying those equations to use it to find an answer, okay? All right, so if you have questions about this or anything else, please be sure to reach out for some help. I am happy to help you, and I hope you have a great day.